throughout the nation and around the globe. From his heart to yours, it's Dear James Live, bringing you intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions.
Hello, beautiful soul family, and welcome to Weekly Wisdom and Insights, your home for spiritually guided transformation and empowerment. I am your host, Dearjames, and together with the unseen Spirit Source and Symphony, we look at the current energies, the intuitive wisdom and insight, and we go as guided. And welcome, a little snafu, but here we are at the Season 5 premiere of Weekly Wisdom and Insights. Welcome, Kiki, and so wonderful to have everybody here. Little snafu with Mercury retrograde and a power outage, so we're delayed a few minutes, but here we are, and lots of powerful energies playing out as we begin Season 5, and this beautiful theme, and I'm just going to bring it up, it's our main theme, the unmasking of divine will, and how Scorpio season, but really Scorpio is ruled by Pluto. So this is Pluto in Aquarius. So Season 5, the theme for Season 5 is going to be about the unmasking of divine will. And let me just bring that in. Welcome, Alicia. And how we're speaking about the unmasking. So I'm going to go first to Scorpio and divine will. The connection between Scorpio and divine will is often viewed through the lens of Scorpio's themes of transformation, death, and rebirth, which align with a spiritual path of surrendering to a higher purpose. This is supported by Scorpio's ruling planet Pluto, which symbolizes profound change and its association with Archangel Jeremiel, who helps navigate life's cycles. The concept involves using Scorpio's intense, intuitive nature to internalize divine will, embrace shadow work, and trust in a cyclical process of death and rebirth to emerge spiritually renewed. Scorpio is strongly linked to the phoenix and the process of death and rebirth. This signifies a divine will that seeks to purify and transform, often by taking you through a metaphorical underworld to achieve a new, more truthful existence. The spiritual path of Scorpio involves surrendering control and trusting the process of transformation rather than fighting it. This means accepting the end of old cycles to make way for new beginnings. One interpretation is that Scorpio's role is to internalize the divine will and then work with society to enact it. This can be a difficult process, often met with criticism, but the individual is meant to persevere. Scorpio season is seen as a time for spiritual warfare and inner sovereignty, with a focus of Christ conscious or a similar concept of the ultimate rebirth. And Archangel Jeremiel is an angel of visions and dreams, known for bringing hopeful messages and helping people evaluate their lives. He assists with problem solving, healing, and finding clarity through meditation, prayer, and quiet reflection. In art, Jeremiel is often depicted holding scales of justice, relating to the traditional role of overseeing the bosom of Abraham, and is associated with the color purple. All of these themes are playing out when you look back at the first 4 years of Weekly Wisdom and Insights. Everything that we're just now speaking about, and that is the literal theme for Season 5, and certain this first episode, while we are in literal Scorpio season. The unmasking of divine will. This is about bringing who we are at our center to the fore, individually and collectively. Make no mistake. This also ties back to an episode back on April 19th, 2023, Return to the Mother, the Power of Pluto. And so we have this beautiful, unveiling and revealing of divine will within each of us, individually, collectively. And lastly, God mentions scorpions. So Scorpio season, so Scorpio is represented by both the scorpion or the serpent, the eagle, and the phoenix. And so God mentions scorpions in the Bible in various ways, sometimes as a symbol of danger and torment, and other times as a symbol of authority over evil. For example, Master Jesus gave his followers the authority to, quote, tread on serpents and scorpions, symbolizing power over evil, while other passages use the scorpion sting to represent punishment or torment. So, again, our main theme, the unmasking of divine will, and how this unmasking is going to reveal our greater truth, destiny, center, character. And I want to then go to this beautiful article written, and this is by Amber Caldera. She's LICSW and LCSW, so she's a licensed therapist and so forth. And this is Unmasking 101, Learning to Be Who You Are. How to start showing up authentically. Now, this article was written, How to Start Showing Up Authentically, as a neurodivergent adult. However, this article, this writing, applies to everyone and certainly applies to this moment. Welcome, Colleen. And this beauty about Unmasking 101, learning to be who you are. And our main theme for season 5, episode 1, but for the entire season, the unmasking of divine will. And so, again, this article from Amber Caldera. And this was on Psychology Today. If you were diagnosed as neurodivergent later in life, autistic, ADHD, or otherwise wired differently, there's a good chance you've spent years masking. You have learned early on to hide parts of yourself to stay safe, to fit in, or to avoid being punished, bullied, or rejected. So you can see how this article is going to speak to all of us. It's not just if you're neurodivergent. Got my own Mercury retrograde going on here. Especially if you're, so in this article, especially if you're LGBTQIA+, this pressure to conform was probably compounded by social, cultural, or even internalized expectations about how you were, quote, supposed to be. Unmasking is the process of undoing that. It's not about rejecting everything you've built. And we've talked a lot about this. It's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater or demonizing, the Piscean patriarchal divine masculine era. Welcome, Deborah. So this isn't, unmasking is the process of undoing that. It's not about rejecting everything you've built. It's about finding out which parts are you and which parts were survival mechanisms. Masking often starts young. Many late diagnosed adults describe decades of feeling off without the language or validation to understand why. You might have copied others' behavior, laughed at jokes you didn't get, or rehearsed entire conversations in advance. Masking isn't always a conscious choice. It's a trauma response. It's about safety. For many, it starts early in life as a way to avoid bullying, social rejection, or misunderstandings. It can involve suppressing, stymieing behaviors, forcing eye contact, mimicking social cues, and hiding special interests. While masking can be a useful tool in certain situations, it can also be incredibly draining and lead to burnout, anxiety, and depression. For late diagnosed adults, but this is of course for everyone that we're speaking to, masking may have become so ingrained that it's hard to know where the mask ends and the authentic self begins. For LGBTQ individuals, neurodivergent folks, masking may have shown up in both gender expression and neurodivergent traits, creating a complex web of identity suppression. Many of us were just masking. We were performing entire alternate selves. Unmasking can lead to a greater sense of self-acceptance. So why unmask? Because it can lead to a greater sense of self acceptance, improved mental health, and more fulfilling relationships. When we're constantly masking, we're essentially hiding a part of ourselves, which can lead to feelings of isolation and inauthenticity. That aspect of what's being hidden, that essential part, is who you are at your center, your soul self, your true self. And so, why unmask? Because the identity of the soul is the purest form of I am. It is who you are at your center. It doesn't matter whether you're late in life, neurodivergent, LGBTQ. This is for everyone. And that's why the beauty of this, the unmasking of divine will, and this season 5, and how the Pluto and the season of Pluto in Aquarius, the Aquarian age, the divine feminine, the matriarchal era, and how this is bringing to the fore what your soul came to do, what your soul said it would do. And why is unmasking so important? Because it brings out the authentic you. Lastly, with this beautiful article from Amber Caldera at Psychology Today, unmasking allows us to connect with others on a deeper level and find communities where we're accepted for who we are. It doesn't mean be your raw self 24/7. That's not always safe or realistic. Unmasking is about slowly reconnecting with your real self without judgment, who you are at your center, your soul. Welcome, Olivia. Unmasking is a personal journey, and there's no one-size-fits-all approach. So why? I mean, these are big energies, big themes that we're just jumping into at the beginning of the show, at the top of the hour. Why? Because number one from the unseen is leveling up, throwing off the yoke of yesteryear. And this throwing off the yoke, it's of tyranny and dogma and delusion and illusion and the masks, the identities, the labels, the scripts, the stories, the truths that we've told ourselves to quote unquote be safe, or to dim our light, or to not shine at our truest nature, at our most optimal level. And so throwing off the yoke is about, it means to break free from oppression, a burden, or control. The phrase comes from the image of a wooden yoke used to harness oxen, which is a symbol of servitude and restriction. To throw off the yoke is to symbolically reject and remove this heavy burden, as in the case of a people revolting against a tyrannical government or an individual overcoming a personal struggle. A people, so historically and politically, a people might throw off the yoke of tyranny or colonial rule to gain freedom from a ruling power. In a personal context, an individual can metaphorically throw off the yoke of a difficult situation, like a bad habit, an oppressive relationship, a heavy financial burden, or the thoughts, the stories, the scripts that we're telling ourselves. Welcome, Sue. And in a religious context, the phrase also appears in religious contexts, often referring to liberation from sin or a state of spiritual bondage. In Christianity, it can symbolize a break from the burden of sin to find freedom in faith. So we have this beautiful leveling up, the unmasking of divine will. And let me just give you a quick definition of this as well, because it's our key word, and our key word, unmasking, is to reveal or disclose the true character or nature of, or hidden truth about someone or something. The act of revealing someone's or something's true identity. So what the unseen is saying to us in this moment, season 5 premiere, episode 1 of season 5, and the entire theme for season 5 on Weekly Wisdom and Insights, is this, the unmasking of divine will. It's about to reveal it, to disclose it, to what is true, what the divine, the unseen wishes for us, what is real, and how we will individually and collectively experience it. And this leveling up, the throwing off the yoke of yesteryear. 2 from the unseen is bound to be famous. Famous meaning well-known. So bound to be famous or well-known. Your light shines brightly for all to see. To see meaning that what your soul came to do and the unmasking of divine will. And when that comes up and out and you're just shining your authenticity, your true divine soul self nature, your light shines brightly for all to see. It's not just to see, to bear witness, but to see as in to awaken. It's going to be contagious is what they're saying. It's going to be this one light. When one person operates from their authentic self and nature, their true self, their light, and how it's a ripple effect, and how one light inspires and empowers another. And so, and then what they said was that acts of service, and this became then, there was a reference to the book of Acts. And in the Bible, Acts can mean the specific book of Acts in the New Testament or the general concepts of deeds and actions. The book of Acts is a historical account of the early Christian church, focusing on the spread of the gospel and the powerful deeds of the apostles like Peter and Paul. As a general concept, acts are actions that demonstrate one's faith, and the biblical teaching emphasizes that faith without deeds is dead. So in other words, the acts must be authentic and true, and faith married with deeds is alive. If it's simply faith and no action, it's, quote, dead. It's a historical, so the book of Acts is a historical. It chronicles the period after Jesus' ascension, showing how his followers spread the Christian message through Jerusalem, from Jerusalem to the wider Roman Empire. It was written by Luke, the Gospel of Luke, and it's considered the same author. The book details how the Christian message grew, empowered by the Holy Spirit, into a movement that included people from all backgrounds. This is it's a message of faith, but it's a message of awakening. We're using an example of the Bible and Christianity and so forth, but this transcends, it applies to all, because it's a leveling up of consciousness. It's a throwing off of the yoke that has kept people burdened or suppressed or oppressed. And this bound to be famous, your light, famous meaning well known, your light shines brightly for all to see, to awaken, to see. Yes, to bear witness. And then these acts of service, these faith and deeds combined, are alive. And a key verse is James 2:17. So too, faith by itself, if it does not result in action, is dead. So this aspect and this truth of they must be married together. Authenticity, true self, faith, married with deeds, action. And in that, bound to be famous, your light shines brightly for all to see. Awaken. 3 from the unseen is the way to or through. Trust, but verify. So this is in this awakening, and it's going to be, we're coming into 2026. All the major planets are shifting. They will officially be in their new signs. So this is revelatory. This is as above, so below, earth-shattering. And we haven't even gotten to the Scorpio new moon that all of this is based on. And the chart, we're coming to it in a second. But the way through, trust but verify. It's a Russian proverb. It's doverye no proverye. And it was made famous by President Reagan speaking to Mikhail Gorbachev. And this was at the time of tear down the wall and all of this. And it's a truth in life. Trust, but verify. And so as we walk forward, as we level up, as our authentic light shines, and we marry faith with acts of service and deeds, when we're interacting with others, When we're in reciprocity or collaboration, trust but verify. Even within yourself, listen to your soul source connection. Listen to your guidance. Listen to the wisdom. Trust but verify. Make sure that you're in alignment with that so that you know when you're in ego, mind, personality, human versus soul source connection. Now let's just back up for a second and look at the numbers here. These are the main energies. We're working with 11, which is peace, relax. 19, approach, advance. We're advancing. Small restraint, surrender. We have everything. We're letting go. We're going to work with hexagram 30, clarity, perceive. It's also 21, biting through, discern. And this 3, difficult beginnings, persevere. This persevering, this faith. And this is the beautiful Scorpio new moon chart that we're working with. And look how beautiful the aspects of this new moon in Scorpio. It's occurring today, this evening, and or tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world. There's a beautiful large, the triangle in the center is a grand water trine. It's a grand trine in water signs. There's also a kite formation in it. There's 2 mini grand trines. All of these trines, sextiles, these are all harmonious aspects in astrology. At the base of the chart, you see the new moon, the sun and the new moon are conjunct. They're conjunct the IC, they're conjunct Mercury. They're directly opposing Uranus. So this means Uranus, so this new moon and these energies that we're speaking about, Uranus, the higher octave, the higher mind, expect the unexpected. Things are going to come out of nowhere fast. We've spoken about this, the 8 of Wands. We're going to be dealing with, so just look as we're doing this, I'm going to bounce. The 8 of Wands is about fast communication. And so it can be, whether it's coming electronically or spiritually or in person, but it has to do with swift moving energies, communications, movements. We may have the 7 of Wands. The 7 of Wands is about how we defend ourselves. And so this was in this leveling up and throwing off the yoke and this trust but verify. It's about making sure that, you know, when you're the pride, the lion, Leo, the pride, you don't have to roar. You are the head of the jungle. You know, you are the head of the pride. And so we don't have to, 7 of Wands, defend ourselves constantly. It's to know when to do it and when to lower the drawbridge, lower the guards, and so forth. And it comes with another element here that I'm going to come to, but this is about this beautiful chart in the new moon in Scorpio, opposite all of this stellium of planets. I mean, look, you've got Venus, Black Moon Lilith, the moon, the IC, the sun, Mercury. Now, granted, Venus on the far left and Mars on the far right, they are out of, in astrology, they are not conjunct because they're more than 10 degrees from the new moon and the sun and the moon. However, big energies, and this moon is harmoniously aspecting, triggering all 5 major outer planets, the outer personal planets. So what's the astrological influence? Auspicious and unexpected. These are auspicious and unexpected energies. This is the as above, so below, the unseen working on our behalf in a major way. It's a trifecta of blessings. It's about harmony, balance, oneness, advance. And the Bible verse that came to me with this was Hebrews 11:27. It was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt. Remember, the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt at the time of Moses. So Hebrews 11:27, it was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invisible. We're throwing off the yoke of yesteryear. We're moving beyond the Piscean patriarchal divine masculine era of 2,000 plus years. We are entering this Plutonian, Pluto in Aquarius, matriarchal, divine feminine, Aquarian, we the people era, where the soul shines, the soul leads the way. It is an inverse of where we've been. We've talked about this and how it's bound to be famous, well known, because your light shines brightly for all to see, to bear witness, but to see as in to awaken, where we've been enslaved, blind. It was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. See, look at what it would have taken for the Israelites to leave the beast they knew, enslavement in Egypt. It takes great faith. It takes great perseverance, great will, divine will. He, Moses, kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invisible, the unseen, God, Allah, Buddha, all that is, the creator. That beautiful soul source connection that is guiding us to a higher octave of being, and how that expansion will create opportunity, newness. And Colleen is saying, cannot come fast enough. Yes. And yet with that, remember, with that, we are all instruments of the divine. Choices. We make choices in every second. Choose to align. Choose to be Moses-esque, Moses-like. To not fear leaving the past behind. To not fear leaving the beast we know. To step into that sense of faith and deed, action. They're married. Because you keep your eyes on the invisible, the unseen. It's a knowing that's within us, that's within you. And Alicia is saying, like many immigrants today coming to the US, it takes belief in a better opportunity to uproot their lives to come here, especially in the current climate. Yes, we are all immigrants. We are all scattered by the winds, by source, by God, that says, and at some point will be recollected, brought together. Colleen is saying so true. And so, because this is number 4 from the unseen, it's about endings and beginnings. And it's the world card. This was the other one. So we have the 7 of Wands. Let me just bring them up quickly. The 7 of Wands, the 8 of Wands, and the world. And the world card, again, this beautiful divine feminine in the center, wrapped by a wreath. There are the 4 images. Here's, it's Aquarius on the left, Scorpio on the right, represented by the eagle. Bottom right is Leo, the lion, and Taurus, the bull, on the bottom left. When the world card appears upright as it is, it's a sign that a major cycle has come to completion. In other words, you've leveled up. Traditional depictions of this card show a figure dancing inside a wreath of victory, holding 2 wands and surrounded by images representing the 4 fixed signs of the zodiac. Just like the Wheel of Fortune, it's cosmic harmony, balance, and mastery. This card is about fulfillment, achievement, and wholeness. And that's the 7. That is, we've talked about 7, which is the foundation of God's word. It's the divine fulfillment, divine completion. It's this mastery, this victory over where we've been. And you'll see how important it is where we've been, where we're going. So this card is about fulfillment, achievement, and wholeness, not just in what you've done, but in who you've become. You've grown, you've healed, You've learned the lessons, and now you're ready to either bask in the glow or begin again from a wiser, more expanded place. You're not ending, you're arriving. I love that. And this is from tarot.com on the world card. So again, just to bring up that image of the world card, you're not ending, you're arriving. We're arriving. That's what this is speaking to, this arrival, the unmasking of divine will, and how throughout the next year, season 5, Weekly Wisdom and Insights, this journey, it's going to be the unmasking of divine will, individually, collectively, and how powerful that is, how Plutonian that is, Pluto in Aquarius, because again, not since French-American industrial revolutions has Pluto been in Aquarius, and when it is, it advances humanity in ways that are, epic, unrivaled. And so number 4, endings and beginnings, the world reimagined. This is about reimagining ourselves, the world we live in, who we are at our center, and how that comes to the fore. So again, allow your soul source connection, your soul self, to emerge, to come forward, because that's who you are at your center. And the more you align with that, and the more you lead with that, the greater the arc of destiny, the greater the journey, the more that actually spills forth. Number 5 from the unseen is, we've only just begun to live. It's a beautiful song from the Carpenters. I'm going to share the lyrics here in a second. We've only just begun to live. The new age before us, and the smiley face. This is about the Aquarian, matriarchal, divine feminine, Pluto and Aquarius era. And we've only just begun to live. A song made famous. It was originally the music, the lyrics to a bank commercial. It was the Crocker Bank. And then the Carpenters made it famous. And we've only just begun to live. White lace and promises. A kiss for luck and we're on our way. We've only just begun. Before the rising sun, we fly. So many roads to choose. We start out walking and learn to run. And yes, we've just begun. Sharing horizons that are new to us. Watching the signs along the way. This is trust but verify. Talking it over, just the two of us. This can be you and your soul source, your connection with God, your soul source connection, you and the unseen. Talking it over, just the two of us. It can be you and another. Working together day to day, together. And when the evening comes, we smile. So much of life ahead. We'll find a place where there's room to grow. And yes, we've just begun. We're just beginning to live. All of this has been in preparation, endings and beginnings, the world reimagined, and this unmasking of divine will. And what's at the fore of all of that? Our mantra is praise ye. Praise ye is to continually show reverence and gratitude to the Creator, to the unseen, to your soul source creation. And you see this young child with arms outstretched, the rising sun, beautiful in front of the ocean, all this orange and purple and magenta and everything. And praise ye is also hallelujah, but it's praise ye to continually show reverence and gratitude to the Creator. It's to remember when we are in constant gratitude and appreciation and reverence for the unseen, for who we are at our center. The light gets stronger, the light gets brighter, we shine ever more, and that means it allows others, quote unquote, to see, to awaken. Because we walk the walk and we talk the talk. You show by example, follow, be led, show by example. So now let's jump to astrologer Chani Nicholas. And she's talking about the Scorpio new moon energies. This week has zero chill, but it's all building toward a breakthrough. You're going to see this word breakthrough. It was in last week's show, breakthrough. This is thanks to the new moon in Scorpio, which is supercharged by Uranus, the planet of freedom and curveballs. Just remember that the best fresh starts can be disruptive, and sometimes the status quo needs interrupting. The Mercury cazimi, that's when the Sun and Mercury are, Mercury is in the heart of the Sun, they're conjunct, and so it's a burning away of the old energies and the renewal of the planet's energies. So the Mercury cazimi the next day, tomorrow, Thursday, may surface some hard truths, but it will also help us face them. Though this moment might feel like a cold shower you didn't ask for, it's the wake-up call we need to make a change. Use it to set off a transformative chain reaction. This is about being in the flow. This is being in the flow with these energies, with throwing off the yoke, with harnessing the shadow. Remember, it's the oyster and the irritant, the grain of sand. Without that irritant, there is no pearl. The oyster doesn't make a pearl without an irritant. It can be a piece of microplastic, a grain of sand, but something embeds itself within the oyster that forms the pearl. Pearls represent wisdom. And so this may come, again, it might be harsh, it might be unexpected, it might be wonderfully pleasant. It just depends on where we are, where each person is, and how that individually and collectively presents itself. And Colleen is saying, mirroring my personal life weirdly. Yes, we're all part of it. We're all part of the collective, and it's mimicking everything for us so that we see how this is all coming and shaping itself together. North Point Journal. This is Pam Youngin's astrologer at North Point Journal. Breakthroughs and breakdowns. And again, she's speaking to this week's powerful and profound new moon, seems destined to bring about dramatic revelations and course-changing events. That's because it's opposite Uranus. The lunation occurs at 10:46 p.m. Pacific time today on the November 19th, when the sun and moon align at 28 degrees, 11 arc minutes, Scorpio. The potency of this new moon lies not only in its location in passionate Scorpio, but also in its strong aspects to all the outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. The tight opposition with radical, rebellious Uranus is likely the most impactful of the aspects. However, the new moon also forms a sensitizing water grand trine with Jupiter in Cancer and Saturn in Pisces. It activates the long-term conscious-raising Uranus-Neptune sextile that's exact on Thursday and is closely sextile Pluto. So these are harmonious aspects in astrology and is exactly conjunct retrograde Mercury. There's a lot to assimilate. So let's take a deeper look. And I'm just bringing up this chart as we're talking about this, because again, these are all the beautiful triangles and the kite formation and the grand water triangle. These are all harmonious aspects. All the outer planets are involved. And thereby, and then there's the opposition to Uranus, but that opposition, again, brings about revelatory change and advance and cleansing and purifying. And the water. The water is emotion, and it's purifying, it's soothing. And so the point of this astrological chart, as above, so below, is that these energies it's all here for us. They, the unseen, God, the all that is ushering us, helping us, assisting us, flowing us forward into the new. Pam Youngin's North Point Journal. So Uranus-Neptune sextile. Uranus and Neptune are both transpersonal planets, embodying the higher octaves of Mercury and Venus, respectively. Thus, Uranus represents higher mind, and Neptune carries the vibration of divine love. As these two planets work together, we may experience an expansion of consciousness and a recentering in the high heart. The unmasking of divine will, who you are at your center, this awakening, this expansion of consciousness, this recentering in the high heart. Because we've fallen, there's so much goo, 2,000 plus years of goo that we are witnessing. We're facing it. It is just smacking us in the face. And yet, what the astrology, what the astrological energies are showing us, the arc of destiny moves forward. So while simultaneously we're seeing the collapse, the end of the old, we are seeing the beautiful rise of the present future, where we're going, the high heart, the expansion of consciousness. A sextile, that's a harmonious aspect in astrology, does not compel, but merely offers opportunity. See, this is about us being in the flow. So it doesn't compel us to do something. It offers us something, a way. The way to and through is trust but verify. Because we're throwing off the yoke. So it's to be in an alignment with that energy, that opportunity. The collaboration between Uranus and Neptune supports a greater sensitivity to and awareness of subtle energies, thus providing the setting for breakthroughs in consciousness and new spiritual experiences. This is a longer-term aspect, exact this Thursday, but in effect from August 2025 through July 2026. So this Uranus-Neptune sextile will be in effect from August of 25 through July of 26, almost a year, a full year. Then Pam Youngins is speaking about, North Point Journal, she's speaking about the Pluto effect. Despite being designated as a dwarf planet, and I really take offense to that because it's not a dwarf planet. It's a major player. It's one of the three. I mean, it's one of the major, it's the triune. So despite being designated a dwarf planet, Pluto's influence is always notable, even in its subtler aspects. At the time of the new moon, Pluto in Aquarius is sextile the luminaries, inviting us to reclaim our power, both individually and collectively. Pluto is also the psychotherapist planet. We just had that beautiful article from Amber Caldera, the Unmasking 101, and how we unmask to bring this out, bring out the inner light. So Pluto is the psychotherapist planet, able to reach into the depths of our consciousness and bring forward that which has been hidden from view. Our soul source connection, the unseen, the divine, has been hidden. It's been hidden from us, it's been hidden from view, and this is an unmasking. This is a bringing it back to the fore, to its rightful place to lead, to shine. By its nature, a Scorpio new moon is already primed to go deep into emotional territory and to reveal the secrets that lie beneath the surface. With Pluto's assist, these potentials are increased this week. But these potentials are going to be increased for this journey of Pluto in Aquarius. And certainly as we arc out, and remember it's front-loaded. They spoke to us many shows ago. The Unseen said that these Pluto in Aquarius and this shift is going to be front-loaded, and then it's going to level out. So it's going to be the most intense in these upcoming, first, third, 5 years. And then it'll kind of ease out, just we'll hit our stride. Pam Youngins, North Point Journal, speaking about retrograde Mercury effect. So Mercury is tightly conjunct together with this week's new moon, being only 16 arc minutes away from the luminaries, from the sun and the moon. The messenger planet's tasks include the sharing of information. There's that 8 of Wands, fast-moving communication. So sharing information. So we expect lively communications and an ever-changing news cycle this week. Again, this can arc out. Much of what we learn is likely to be shocking or disruptive. That's Uranus, given that Mercury is in truth-seeking Scorpio is exactly opposite Uranus on the same day as the lunation. With Mercury being retrograde, this new moon asks us to revisit facts that we thought we already knew and had processed. This is we know what we know until we know. This is about making space. Because once we become fixed, And this is number 8 from the unseen. Pardon, no, it's not. Where is it? It's number 7. Trust yourself! Exclamation point. Rigid behavior, rigidity, is useless, futile. So this is where the 7 of Wands is where we defend ourselves when we need to, when it's necessary. But this is also about, it's number 7, it's about, again, the divine fulfillment and completion, the foundation of God's word. This trust yourself. Rigid behavior, rigidity, is futile, it's useless. And here, Pam Youngins at North Point Journal is speaking about, with Mercury being retrograde, this new moon asks us to revisit facts that we thought we already knew and had processed. This is about not being rigid, but fluid. Mercury in perceptive Scorpio is determined and even preoccupied with getting to the truth of a situation, even when the journey takes us through emotional swamplands. Still, we need not fear getting stuck in the mire. Remember that in mythology, Mercury was the only immortal, other than Hades himself, who could freely enter and leave the underworld. So this is about death, birth, renewal, and bringing up into the light that which has been hidden, and not being rigid, but being fluid, because it's about trusting ourselves. This is true about anything in life. Yet, when we trust ourselves, meaning our soul source connection, our knowing, that relationship with the unseen, with God, it's so paramount to our foundation, to our stability, self-worth, self-value, self-confidence. When that is aligned and true and right, and we go as guided, there's nothing to fear. There's nothing to worry about. There's nothing that we won't triumph and overcome. And there's nothing that we know that might change, because everything is fluid. Everything is alive. The universe is alive. God is alive. We are alive. So when we're rigid, it becomes stagnant. It becomes fixed, hard, becomes hardened. But when we're fluid, water, the grand trine, this fluidity, this movement. You saw the beautiful image. Let me just bring it up. Season 5, this radiant ribbon of light, of life force that mimics the flow of water. Well, the message from the unseen is trust yourself. Rigid behavior, rigidity is useless, futile. And last but not least, with Pam Youngins' North Point Journal, on Sunday, the sun is opposite Sedna and the sun sextiles Pluto. Here's the meaning. A deep transformation is underway. Our perspectives on the past are shifting, and our core beliefs are being questioned. To the root of our beings, to the root of our foundations, the unmasking of divine will. The truth prevails, comes to light, and that's going to require us to revisit beliefs, belief systems, what we thought we knew, the foundations that we thought we could rely on, and they're shifting, they're changing, not to harm us, but rather to advance us, to elevate us, to level up, so that those foundations that we stand upon are firm. They're saying they're firm, they're ever evolving and ever changing in advance, in ascension. And that what we were calling, science has called dark DNA and junk DNA, and that the unseen that we term divine DNA, that divine DNA being activated, awakened. Imagine that. Imagine that this divine DNA has been dormant, and it awakens, and it naturally expands our consciousness, naturally lifts us, levels us up. Who would want to remain in the old paradigm or these old institutions, foundations? And think of it like technology. Anytime technology, the first televisions, the first radios, the first cell phones, the first computers, how massive and clunky and heavy they are. And yet, today, we hold smartphones. Smartphones are advanced computers, microprocessing computers, and we hold them in our hand. We put them in our pocket. They're so light. They're so thin. You look at the advance of televisions, they're paper thin. They can be paper thin and massive. There's a levity, a lightness to them. This is the same for humanity, of where we are and where we are going. Now I want to bring in Astrology by Lauren. The new moon in Scorpio, 2025, profundity. She begins with a quote from Sophie Loren. I've never tried to block out the memories of the past, even though some are painful. I don't understand people who hide from their past. Everything you live through helps to make you the person you are now. So this is, again, when we are the purity of ourselves and our experiences, and we just allow them to be. They shape us. It's only if we get stuck in them, if we allow them to refine us define us instead of refine us, that they become problematic, stagnant, stuck. But when we allow our experiences, everything that we've been through, shadow and all, to refine us, we advance, we level up. So, Astrology by Lauren. This year, as Jupiter stationed for its retrograde phase, it was making an almost perfect trine to Saturn. And as it always does, every time it stations, Jupiter was also closing in on a trine to the Sun. These are harmonious aspects, creating a grand trine in the water signs just in time for the new moon that's occurring tonight or tomorrow, and depending on where you are, at 28 degrees Scorpio, 11 arc minutes. With all the water signs occupied by the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune, we will be diving into the very depths of our being with this moon. We are being compelled to feel the feelings, to meet all the denizens at the door, the shames, the fears, the grief, the remorse, the guilt, as well as the joys, the passions, and the magic that is Scorpio. And there's no other way around it but to move right through it. So the way through, trust but verify. On Tuesday, November 18th, retrograde Mercury will return to Scorpio, forming an exact conjunction with the new moon on Thursday, 11:20. So depending today, tomorrow. Mercury disappears from the sky when it enters the heart of the Sun. The inferior conjunction of the Sun and Mercury is the nascent beginning of the next Mercury cycle. This is when any planet is in the heart of the Sun. It burns away the previous energies, and it's reborn, and it begins the new cycle of that planet. This is Mercury's new cycle. This is Mercury's new moon as well. It is in the middle of its retrograde phase when Mercury's outer effectiveness is being eclipsed, that its inner essential nature is at its height. See, our ego, mind, personality, human, our outer effectiveness is being eclipsed by our inner essential nature. That is what's happening in this new era of divine feminine, matriarchal, Aquarian, we the people era. Our outer effectiveness is being eclipsed. Ego, mind, personality, human is being eclipsed. And its inner essential nature is rising to the fore, to its height. That's where we've been. This is where we're going. The subtle insights that Mercury brings us at the new moon are deeply significant for our own inner growth and mental awareness. But to hear that inner voice speaking to us through our feelings, through our passions, through our instincts, we are going to have to listen quite closely. For the insights that Mercury in Scorpio can bring is a deep inner knowing conveyed through symbols, sounds, and the senses. See, this is the fine-tuning of the dial on the antique radio or in the car, the old car radio. You had to fine-tune the channel to hear the song or the conversation or whatever, the transmission. This is the same with the soul source connection, our soul source connection, and listening to the unseen, to the divine in us, and how we have to hone the senses and we have to listen. It becomes easier over time. The more we practice, the more we exercise that soul muscle, the stronger it becomes, the clearer, the more present, ever present it becomes. Astrology by Lauren. She says, and with the Sun, Moon, and Mercury all in opposition to Uranus, what we are being shown this week, albeit shocking and maybe even alarming, could also be incredibly enlightening. Be ready for a few twists and turns with this new moon. Uranus weather is often quick. There's that 8 of Wands, quick, and we will need to be vigilant to register that what we are seeing. So we need to be vigilant to register that which we are seeing, hearing, and being made aware of. And is it indeed true? So again, is it live or memorex? Is this true, or is it, illusion, delusion? Because we're throwing off the yoke of yesteryear. At the new moon, Uranus, which has now returned to Taurus, can indeed be illuminating, sometimes shockingly so. Secrets are revealed. Pennies are made irrelevant. We come to realize that the old ways of doing things need an update, and that we are now standing on the threshold of something new and different. However, before we get there, with 5 planets retrograde and 7 planets, including the Sun and Moon, in the last degrees of their signs, we are compelled to face our past. New moons are times of new beginnings, endings and beginnings, the world reimagined. So new moons are times of new beginnings, and accompanied by the exact sextile between Uranus and Neptune, we are not just compelled to revisit the past, but are being given a glimpse of the possibilities that await us in the future. Because contained in the ending is the beginning, contained in the beginning is the end. So while we're revisiting the past, we're being given glimpses of the future, of the possibilities in the future. And combined with the almost exact trine between Jupiter and Saturn, this moon is also about creating a plan for the future. It's forward thinking. It's forward moving. And it is, here's number 8 from the unseen. It's steady as she goes. Higher octave navigation. This path, course, destiny, and destination. Steady as she goes means to keep moving at a constant, careful pace, avoiding sudden changes. Now, it doesn't mean that sudden changes, things, expect the unexpected, things won't happen, but it's how we course correct. Driving any vehicle, when we're able to navigate calmly, consistently, carefully, we arrive at our destination safely. If we make an erratic move, it can cause harm. Now, sometimes we have to make that erratic move, if you will, that sudden change to avoid another vehicle, an animal or something of this nature. Okay, but the message from the unseen is steady as she goes. Higher octave navigation. That higher octave navigation is your soul source connection, the unseen, the divine within you. That's leading this path, this course, this destiny, this destination, because it's leading us to where we're going. Continuing with Astrology by Lauren, she can quote by George Santayana, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. This is a very powerful quote. It's a very well-known quote. Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. We see this playing out before us. Do not be one of those individuals who cannot remember the past, and thus you're condemned to repeat it. Choose, because it's a choice, choose to be one of those individuals who releases the past to embrace the present future, to receive the new. Look how beautiful. Those energies are alive. Water, they're flowing. It's the waters of life. They're flowing. They're guiding us. They're nourishing. They're showing, the unseen is showing me how when you float, you can float downriver, right? You just relax. You're one with the water, with the current, with the flow, and you flow. You float. When you fight against it, you go under, you bob under, you thrash. You can succumb to the current, to the water, because you're thrashing and fighting against it, as opposed to being one with it, flowing with it. Astrology by Lauren. Without our history, we have no context for where we are now. 7 planets in the late degrees of their signs, and 5 of these are also retrograde. All are reminding us that the past is important. Who we were and who we are and who we now are. What motivates and moves us. And that without our past, we have no present and will have no future. It's that famous saying, Master Jesus that said to the apostles, you ask where you are going without knowing where you've been. Well, this is that same aspect. The past is important as a benchmark, a guide, to know where we've been so that we know where to go. Not to repeat the past, but to release it, not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but to harness the best of it, face the goo, the shadow, harness the power of the shadow for greater awareness, greater consciousness. So we are tasked with making sense of the present by remembering, exploring, processing, and shining a light on past events that are relevant to our present and our future. Nothing is sacred in the sign of Scorpio, the sign of birth, death, and rebirth, and all things taboo, sexuality, scandal, mental illness, the abuses and negligence of too much power and corruption. Nothing is off the table. These are all ruled by, they are all Scorpio, ruled by Pluto, and this whole serpent, eagle, phoenix. Look at the progression of the Scorpion energies, the Plutonian energies. From Scorpion, or serpent, to eagle, the aviary that flies the highest, the closest to God, to phoenix, that rebirth renewal. Astrology by Lauren. Change is imminent, but first we are needing to tie up the loose ends of the past, release what is getting in the way of our ability to be open to the changes that are being seeded here within the new moon. Do not be afraid to look in the dark places. The workers in the water and earth signs are distilling, purifying, processing, and making sense of what was, so that we will be able to make better choices in the future. With Mercury returning to Scorpio on Tuesday, as it did yesterday, we can make that deep dive along with the new moon to confront our own demons, our fears, the feelings, the habits, the doubts, the old ways of thinking that still have a hold on us and prevent us from living our own best lives. Whatever is standing in the way of our own freedom, our ability to live authentically, will be challenged with this new moon. We're going to be challenged to release this so that there are no obstructions, no obstacles to our soul source connection, our source, our light coming forward and leading. 5 affirmations from Astrology by Lauren. Out of the ashes of the past, I have the ability to create a better and more meaningful future. When I embrace my own power, I become an instrument for positive change in the world and in my own life. I am endowed with the magical ability to transform problems into happiness. I am profound and have depths of potential as yet unrealized. I am powerful and capable of taking on even the most daunting of challenges. We are whole, we are sovereign, we are divine beings of light, of love, of purity. And this, the unmasking of the divine will, this leveling up, these endings and beginnings, it's all readying us, delivering us into the new. This is from the 0 point today, the 0 point, through the end of April of 2026. This is when all the major outer planets will have officially shifted. It's front-loaded. These energies are front-loaded. So this, from 0 point to 5 years, these next 0 to 5 years, certainly 2026, this first year, They're going to be intense energies, intense transformation, intense endings and beginnings, intense renewal for us, for you. So be one with them, flow with the energies, and shine your interior, your intuitive, your innate divine light for all the world to see. It shines brightly for all to see. Faith and acts of service, faith and deeds married together, where the divine feminine, the receptive force, leads, and the divine masculine, the creative force, is in service to, in oneness with. That is where we are. This is where we begin this beautiful season 5 of Weekly Wisdom and Insights. And for all of you who have been on this journey or are just joining us today, welcome. Please go back and visit all the previous, 4 seasons episodes, and just know we are being intuitively guided every day, every step of the way. So the more we relax and flow and come into that, into the empowerment of that, the greater octave of your light and your being. Welcome, Heather. And thank you. She's saying, what a beautiful season 5. Congratulations and thank you. Congratulations and thank you to all of you, because it is your presence, your energy, your love, your support, and your bearing witness, your sharing of yourselves that make this journey so beautiful and special, and divine. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and we will see you next week.
You've been listening to Dearjames Live. Gain intuitive insight, answers, and advice to your life questions, and so much more by tuning in next week and visiting Dearjames.com.